The biggest takeaway from my Rurouni Kenshin manga retrospective, The Wandering Samurai Study, is understanding Kenshin's dilemma in this new world that he helped create with manslaughter. In chapter 48, when recounting his experience with the Shinsengumi, he claims that there isn't any direct animosity between himself and the members of the group that he went up against, because at its base, the two groups were following the same fundamental truth. They were fighting for their ideals, even if it landed them on opposite ends. It's a strange type of kinship that he feels for his former enemies, the Shinsengumi being on the side of the shogunate trying to protect the 300-year-old Tokugawa regime, and Kenshin's side, the ancient Shishi, the revolutionaries who wanted to tear down this regime. The very idea that Kenshin feels more a kinship with his former enemies than the men that he fought alongside is telling, knowing that most of these men who were part of the ancient Shishi are now fat cat high power politicians, a path that Kenshin decided not to pursue. It might be easy to say that Kenshin in the Meiji is a much different character than the one he was during the Bakumatsu. The reputation that he carries in these new times, and the way that every foe urges to bring back that side of him for the glory of taking down the legendary Hitokiri Batosai. In chapter 2 of the manga, episode 3 of the anime, Kenshin takes down the police swordsman, causing a public stir that leads a now high-ranking former ally of Kenshin, Yamagata, to find Kenshin and attempt to bring him into his world. Kenshin declines, arguing that there's no difference in the person that he was back then, except now he's wandering rather than killing, and only using his sword so that he may protect those around him. The example being the public caught in the power trip of the police swordsman. I think that this might be a bigger deal than the surface implies. The Meiji era brought about new systems in play that changed the power dynamics and the social hierarchy. It brought about new technology and foreign influence that Japan had never known before. But for Kenshin, this wasn't why he joined the civil war that brought this change. The Meiji allowed lower-ranking samurai the chance to give up their swords and make a living as an artisan or as a merchant. Yutaro's father gave Yutaro the chance to grow up chasing his ideals by he himself giving up his ideals and commercializing his culture, something that we still see from Japan till this day. And for that, the Meiji era is different, but it's not the reason that Kenshin joined the fight. In chapter 84 of the manga, episode 41 of the anime, Kenshin finally arrives at his master's home, urging his help in his upcoming fight with Shishio. Seijiro Hiko reminds Kenshin of the words that he told Kaoru back in chapter 1. Swords are weapons. The way of the sword is the way to kill. Continuing by saying, your naive ideals and the necessity of the moment, it's both selfish and foolish for you to think that you can have both. And we get a flashback of Hiko denying Kenshin's wishes to join the civil war. The reason Kenshin wanted to fight, the reason that he paved this new era, it's because the people were suffering. He thought that he could use his sword to protect those from suffering, as he believed that that was the purpose of the Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu. Hiko's word choice, he who chases two rabbits will acquire neither, is the fundamental root of why Kenshin's desire to end suffering failed. The old era is out and the new one is here. But, as Kenshin tells Sanosuke in chapter 8 of the manga and episode 5 of the anime, the revolution is not over. The former ancient Shishi, who is now sitting pretty in comfortable government positions, were the ones who won in the end, and if their desire to end the Tokugawa was so that they may sit in these positions, then yes, the revolution is over. But for Kenshin, who joined so that people's suffering may cease, then the revolution continues. As an older and wiser man, aged 28 at the start of the series, Kenshin understands that death and destruction will not bring about the end of suffering. Hiko told Kenshin, your naive ideals and the necessity of the moment, it's both selfish and foolish to think that you can have both. Because he understood that killing is not the way to achieve this, and he would only be taken advantage by the side that he chose to align himself with. Hiko rebuttals Kenshin's pleas by explaining, you're the one who doesn't get it. Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu will bring victory to whatever side we aid, and sure enough, the Meiji was brought about due to Kenshin's contributions, but at the price of Kenshin's heart, stained by the blood of his victims, including the fiancé of the woman Kenshin loved, and Kenshin's love herself. With this, Kenshin's desire to create a new era absent of people's suffering created the Hitokiri Batosai. This is why he chose to aid the people around him with his Sakabato and vowing not to kill. As he continued to explain to Sanosuke in chapter 8, whether it will be 1 year or 10 or an eternity before the revolution is attained, no one can say, but this is my method of giving payment to the people who sacrificed for the Meiji Revolution, payment to those who were killed by Hitokiri Batosai. Kenshin atones for the countless manslaughter he committed, believing a new era of suffering would emerge, and when it didn't occur, he finally understood his master's opposition to let him go. The Sakabato and the decision to wander Japan is the method Kenshin decided to continue this fight. Just as his master said, the Hiten Mitsurugi will lead victory on the side it's aiding, and I believe that this is the reason that Kenshin decided to wander alone and why he decided not to join his former allies in the government rankings. His sword brought about death and a victory devoid of his reason to join. Rurouni Kenshin, the series, explores the continuous suffering in the Meiji through the characters Kenshin encounters. Kaoru's dojo being sought for real estate value by the Hiruma brothers in Act 1. Yahiko forced into working pickpocket for the Yakuza after his mother and father died, and Sanosuke holding on to the resentment of being used as a scapegoat by the ancient Shishi themselves, the one who promised the change. And Megumi forced into peddling drugs to make a black market merchant wealthy, and killing the common man, such as Sanosuke's friend. Every member of the Kenshin Gumi suffered in some shape in this new era, and without killing a single person, Kenshin found ways of aiding the people who needed help and lent them tools and guidance so that they may do the same. This is how Kenshin continues to fight. And so reflecting back on the words of Kenshin to Yamagata in Act 2, Episode 3 of the anime, with a sword, the people within my sight can at least be protected. This one is no different now from before, except that he is now a Rurouni, and not a Hitokiri. We may think of Kenshin and Hitokiri Patosai as two separate people, and in a way, they may be. But the goal of Kenshin Himura has always been the same, but the methodology is now different. He realized that manslaughter and choosing to align with the side is not the way to end suffering in Japan, and though he may just be one person, he's one person who can at least protect the people around him. Hey everyone, thanks for making it to the end of the video. If you like this video and you want to see more, then consider subscribing to the channel, share this video out to others, and as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I have a retrospective on the Rurouni Kenshin manga called The Wandering Samurai Study. I'll go ahead and leave a link to the first episode of the retrospective in the end card, and I also have other Rurouni Kenshin scripted videos. I'm really proud of the Sanosuke one that I made, and I also did another one on Makoto Shishio and the necessity of Kenshin going to Kyoto to stop him. Feel free to watch any of those. My biggest Kenshin video is the one why the new Kyoto arc failed. So if you like Kenshin, you might have already seen that one, or I don't know, if you haven't, check that one out. Leave a comment down below and let me know what did you guys think of this video. What did you guys think of the Kenshin character himself? Personally, Kenshin isn't my favorite character in this story, but I do hold his ideals and his philosophy very close to my heart. Thanks again for watching this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, cha.
Ow!
Hey, I can't believe you really hit me with everything you got.
It's only because you don't get it.